A federal judge has blocked the Justice Department subpoenas tied to a criminal investigation into Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. The probe, led by U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, focused on whether Powell misled Congress about the cost of the Fed's headquarters renovation. For more on this, let's welcome in our guest, United States JAG Officer and federal prosecutor Don Brown, plus constitutional attorney and partner at First and 14th PLLC, Chris Murray, as well, of course, as our special guests, Nan Hayworth and Mike Sapricone. Welcome, everybody.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro responding to the judge's decision to block these subpoenas. Take a listen.
Is above the law. And this outrageous decision will be appealed by the United States Department of Justice.
All right, so Dan, I'm going to start with you. What will Jeanine Pirro need to prove to win an appeal, and is it likely?
Well, first off, Judge Boasberg, as you may remember, is the very same judge who issued an order to President Trump early last year, ordering the president to turn around an airplane full of illegals who were headed back to Central America when the flight was almost there. So he has a pendency for operating outside of his jurisdictional limits. The judge is claiming that the subpoena is basically a subterfuge. In other words, that it is issued as an effort to try to force Powell to resign. And I think there's an absence of evidence there. And so the appeal is going to have to show that there basically is an abuse of discretion, which is kind of a high standard. But nonetheless, it does appear to be a political decision instead of a legal decision, and it is unfortunate.
Chris, can we get your thoughts on that? I mean, the balance between a political decision and a legal decision.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is absolutely good to be with you this morning, Bill and Sarah. I mean, the bottom line here is that it is ordinarily very, very difficult to get a subpoena, especially for an investigation target, blocked in federal court. Here, Judge Boasberg sort of went out of his way to read a context into the issuance of the subpoenas and to find them pretextual. I'll tell you that the next administration, even the Trump administration, obviously is not going to like this, but the next administration is going to hate this. And if I were a member of the criminal defense bar, I'd say, wonderful. All I need to do is find some clip of the president or some other officer in the executive department of the government saying something nasty about my client and say, pretext, wonderful. Now I can get my subpoenas quashed. It's really sort of a shocking ruling.
All right, I'm going to pivot to the War Powers Act, but first of all, I want to just get our special guest in studio to weigh in on this. Nan, I'll begin with you.
Well, Judge, as mentioned, Judge Boasberg has a distinct bias against the Trump administration, and to try to impute a political motive when, in fact, there's a legitimate cause for investigation is truly outrageous, but par for the course with that judge.
All right.
I agree. This is just an investigation. It has to be done. And I think he's opening a can of worms here to see what happens later on in the next administration.
All right. Let's see how that goes. But anyway, so the White House says that Democrats are using the War Powers oversight to delay President Trump's national security agenda, even as Congress backs the military operation. So, Dan, back to you again now. Can the president legally bypass Congress during ongoing military conflicts here?
The Constitution does not require consultation between the President and the Congress. Matter of fact, there have been about 300 uses of force by United States presidents since the beginning of the Republic. Only 5 times have there been declarations of war. The War Powers Act itself, passed after the Vietnam War, is of constitutional questionability. Yes, the president can continue to act. Thomas Jefferson himself sent the Marines and the Navy into the Mediterranean during the Barbary War. That was in March of 1801, and Congress never gave authority until February of 1802. So there's plenty of historical presidents. You know, Reagan, Bill Clinton, FDR issued shoot-to-sink orders in 1941 against German submarines before declaration of war. Yes, there is plenty of historical and constitutional precedents for the president to act in this instance, and anything else is just poppycock, in my opinion.
Nan, I just want to get your thought on that.
Well, I agree. Article 2 is clear that the president has this power. And were Congress to pass some sort of war powers resolution that's adverse to his decision, what can he do? He can veto it. and they don't have a veto-proof majority.
100%. This is a president who takes action. We spoke about it before.
Yeah.
The Democrats are upset that he's doing something. They're used to a president who did nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's amazing. We're at war, and they're playing
Right.
politics with
Yeah.
us.
Right.
Well, Dan Brown, Chris Murray, thank you both so much for joining us today. And Nan and Mike, thank you both so much as well. You're going to be sticking around with us all day.